Hi all, good morning or good evening, depending on where you're located. Thank you for joining our Power BI webinar, and my name is Deepak Shankar. I'm a community manager within the Microsoft Business Application Group. And today we have Mike, an MVP with us, who's going to walk us through the new Power BI features. Mike, it's all yours now.
Hey gang, it's Mike. I'm the owner of Power BI Tips, and today we're going to walk through just working smarter and using some layouts. These are some ideas of Power BI template files that I created off of my website, Power BI Tips. So I'll kind of give you a quick introduction of who I am and what I'm all about, as long as I can advance my slides. There we go. So my name's Mike Carlo. I'm a principal data and AI architect, independent consultant. I'm one of the owners of Power BI Tips. Myself and Seth Bauer run the website. You can catch me on LinkedIn, or if you want to catch me on Twitter or on YouTube as well. I have a number of videos there going through techniques and tips and tricks specifically around Power BI. So kind of giving you some background for this talk and what we're going to go through today. I would call myself, in some ways, I'd say I'm a lazy engineer. And what I mean by this is my background is mechanical engineering. I have an MBA and I'm working through my master's in data science currently, but I always kept trying to find the process or pattern that would produce the least amount of effort for me. And so there's kind of two core concepts that we're going to talk about today. We're going to get to this concept or this idea of a layout. It's like a template file that we kind of enhance and make it prepared for publication within our reporting, basically connecting to the cubes inside PowerBI.com. So as I've been using the Power BI tool for a number of years now, I've kind of come to the realization that I want to do things in an efficient way. So this kind of brings up the pattern of how we publish reports. So our current pattern, and what most people are familiar with, and especially when I do consulting, this seems to be the most common pattern. The idea here is I'm a report author. I will make many reports here. And so this is me on my left-hand side here. I will build many different reports. And then for each of those reports, I'll connect to some data sources. It'll maybe be Excel. It'll maybe be in a SQL server. And we'll mash up that data. And then I will publish directly from Power BI Desktop. And I will push that report out into the service. So this is me publishing these reports directly into the service. And now I have this nice, pretty report that people can consume and go get from my workspace. The challenge of this is every time you publish this way, you have this repeated effort where each report comes with a corresponding data set. So that's what I'm showing here on the right-hand side. So I have two reports, and for those two reports, I have an equivalent data set for each one of those. So this works well in a business user standpoint. It's very easy to manage. I know there's a one-to-one relationship between my reports and my data sets. But as you start scaling this larger, as you start looking to bigger organizations, this sometimes breaks apart. We have this concept, or maybe not a challenge, maybe more along, not a concept, but you have this same challenge with you doing Excel. People will bring in a bunch of information, they'll manage the data in Excel, and then they'll email that file or that Excel file across to other people in the organization. So now you start versioning your files, and now it's V1, V2 at the end of the file name, and you can get this really disparate environment where you have just many, many different files all over the place. So what we want to start doing is we want to start taking some cues from the IT organization and start leveraging some of the patterns that they use. So a common pattern that an IT group would use to publish would be me, the data owner, would then mash up a bunch of data sources. We would bring them together, and then we would push them into some analysis cube. That cube may live on-prem, that cube may live in the cloud. I'm leaving out a lot of technical pieces here. We're just really going after the high-level concepts here. So the idea here being is one analysis services model should be able to serve many different reports. So for each of those reports, we're looking at the same data set. We have the same data model. Our definitions or measures that we're using are all centralized in that model that has been produced for everyone to consume. So this is really interesting. So now we're able to start building one larger, more capable model. And then we have many different reports that we can publish. And then we would publish these reports into PowerBI.com, the service, and then all of our reports would then be able to refresh themselves back to the analysis services. But the analysis services instance is kind of managed in an IT space. So I like this approach. I think this is very efficient from a standpoint of we can have very smart people working on the data model and building the capabilities there. This allows for enterprise calculations or enterprise-based figures, so we know how these calculations or these business rules are being applied to our data, and it's all managed in one central location. So if we find there's a mistake or we need to refresh some data, we're able to go back to the singular model and update this, and then this model will be able to get more information. We can add more tables or more measures, and then automatically all of those measures and calculations would be pushed down to each of the reports that we could then update and then republish. So this is really an IT pattern that we find. So let's blend these kind of two approaches. So we need to move fast, and this is where I'm going to coin a phrase here that I like to use. It's called act like the business, but think like IT. So my background is really in the business side of things, where I really came from that Excel world. I love the Power Query. I like being able to mash up my data. I like being able to see the data coming in. For me, as a business user, essentially, I wanted to have as much and as raw of the data as I possibly could, but I needed tooling to help me accomplish that. So this concept, and I'm going to present to you like maybe a different pattern here of how we think about maybe publishing reports now. So we're still going to use the analysis services cube, but we're going to use the one that's kind of dedicated and built into PowerBI.com. The idea here is me, the user, would then build out a data set, and it could be in Power BI Desktop. You could use other tools as well. There's, I think Tabular Editor is another good tool out there that you can modify and make data sets with, and you can modify or read data sets that are in the cloud already. So the idea here is I'm going to be building out a data set, and from the build of that data set, I would then publish it. And there's really not a lot of report pages. So yes, there'll be report pages with it, but there's really no information. I'm not going to put visuals. I'm not going to put graphs there. I'm pretty much just going to publish a data set as it is. Now what I'm going to do is when I start a new Power BI file, I would go directly back to the service, the PowerBI.com service, and live connect to a data set. And then I could build many different reports off of the same cube. So this really mimics what the IT group is really looking to try to accomplish here, right? We want maximum reusability on our data models. We want to have one data set that can serve many different reports. That's just more efficient. We have one definition of what sales is, or you're not trying to manage multiple measures between many different data models. And then now you can have all these reports published again back down to PowerBI.com, and then you can schedule the data source to refresh, and then automatically all of your reports will subsequently refresh as well. So quick summary, when we talk about this concept, there are kind of two opposing opinions of why we're doing things the way we do, right? The business needs, I need speed, I need to develop quickly, I need to have reports that are evolving, right? I don't know if I know all the requirements up front. I just need to put some data down and get things moving, right? As I use the report, there will be more business requirements later on, and I'll have to evolve that report into something better. There's usually a wide range of skill levels that we talk about when we're talking about the business. There are some individuals who want you just to produce the report for you. There's also in the business people who are very technical. They're very heavily in Excel. They're writing their own macros and doing very custom things and very code-based things. They just don't have the traditional IT background that an IT organization would have. And usually the business is all around delivering quick wins, right? I don't need to have this massive data warehouse always curated and built before I can build a report. Sometimes I need to produce a report in a couple hours or a couple days. So we have to deliver these quick wins repeatedly. From the IT side of things, we kind of take a little bit of a different approach. In the IT world, we want to look for like a maintainable solution. So things like reusability and building a model that I can reuse for many different reports makes sense, right? I have a limited amount of resources as the IT organization, and I want to make one bigger model that many different reports can serve. That way I'm maintaining one source of the truth and getting all this added value from additional reports coming off of that cube. There's a lot of things here around enterprise standards. So enterprises, and particularly IT organizations, have a review process and going through these different models and how to make sure that everything is sustainable and it can be reused and it's a repeatable process. So when something breaks, we know how to roll back the model and go back to a previous version. So this is going to be our moniker that we're kind of using the context for these layouts. So the idea here is we're going to walk through this concept of producing a data set, moving the data set into PowerBI.com, and then from that, we have reports that we're going to use, and the reports that we're going to use are essentially going to be layouts. They're going to be pre-designed reports that have some features or functionality pre-built into them, and then we're going to connect to our cube and start building visuals inside the reports, and then we can publish those reports out to the surface. Okay, so we're about ready to jump into demos. I'm not sure how many people we have online, so I will take a quick pause here and see if there are any questions that we have at this point. Any questions right now, or should we keep on cruising? All right, I'm not hearing any questions from Deepak. Well, all right, let's keep on going. So let's start with loading up a data source here. So I have one file here on my desktop. Let's make sure I don't have it open already. I do actually have it open. I'll go here to this data source. So this may be the activity where I'm going to build out a data source. So in here, we would have loaded a number of tables. These tables might have some sort of relationships between them. Inside each of these tables, we may produce columns or measures or other things in here that we want to review. Now, something that's interesting here is when I'm building out a data set, I'm probably going to be putting a couple tables on a chart. I mean, this is usually where I do some kind of double checks, right? I may bring in category here into the page, and I may want to just verify that yes, these categories do make sense. Like my data is loading properly, and I don't have to delete this page when we publish this data set. This is more around making sure that the data is correct and vetting the numbers so that they make sense. So I may bring also in here category. We may bring in sales amount, and I may look at these numbers and compare these against my database to make sure that the transformations that I'm applying in this data set have things that are related here. Some other techniques I like to use, particularly around making data sets here, is inside this the sales table, we have a number of measures. Let's see if I have my zoom it on. Let's try that again. There we go. Let me make sure I can zoom in here. So we can go over here and look at some of these measures. And so the idea here is we have some of these measures, and these are going to live in the data model. This is going to be that global data model piece that we're talking about. So one of the techniques I like to use here is, even though these are measures here in the sales table, we probably want to group them some way so we can see them in a folder. You can do this by going over to the model button on the right-hand side. Whoops, model button. So I'm going to use this one here. This is the model button here. If we click on this, we can then see these are the tables that we're working with. We have properties and fields over here for the data set. So we're going to shape some of the data set here slightly so we can make some grouping here. What I can do here is I can click on I measure, and we can write the name and we can write descriptions or some synonyms. This is for the linguistics model within inside Power BI to help you use Q&A. And we can also add a display folder. So this is what I like using. So what I would like to do here is we're going to just call this global measures. And it will add a folder here. Whoops, it moved away. So now I have this global measures. Now, another technique I like to use is see it drop this folder in the middle of my table here. Now, I'm not too pleased with that. I would maybe prefer that this global measures move to the very top. So in order to do that, we can go back over here. We can add an underscore underneath global measures. And now when I hit enter again, you can see that the global measures moved all the way to the top of the list now. And now my measure that I have, a report link, is now in there. So now what I can do is I can actually drag and drop other measures directly into that folder. So I'm going to organize these, and you'll see why we do this in a second when we start building reports on top of this. So I'm going to grab some Sparkline information. Oops, I think I missed it. Sparkline, we'll add him there. There's a couple other measures down here. I'm going to use control and click these other measures. So you're control clicking them, and then I can bring all of those measures again up to the global measures table. So now I have all the measures grouped here, and everything else I have is almost dimensional or just straight non-number based columns. Another thing I'll point out here, and this is another technique that I like to use when I'm building things, There are a certain number of columns here that would make sense to be aggregated and certain things that would not make sense. So one example here is the product ID. Product ID is an ID of the product, which just happens to be a number. So if we're building things in a report and we're trying to build this for reusability, two things may be evident here. One is we may never want people to put product ID on a table. We would then hide it. The other thing here is the summation sign next to it means that this sum sign is a number, and it would automatically do an implicit measure against this. So what we want to do is we want to modify that. We want to go over to column tools, and this is, so for those who have used this previously, this month, Microsoft has released the new ribbon. And so in order to modify columns, you now have a new ribbon name here called column tools. And this is where we adjust how things are aggregated. So the default summarization is count. We're going to just change that to do not summarize. And what that'll do is it'll take away the sum sign. And so now it won't automatically add those numbers together when we put them on a list or a table. So let's see here, product labels, probably would not want to sum them either. Sales amount looks like it's good. Store key, that looks like something else we would not want to summarize. And then units, maybe something we want to summarize. Another technique I like to use here is when we have areas or measures within our table, sales amount, units, and maybe the NSAT number or score, if we're trying to do aggregations around these pieces, if we want to use this model both from Power BI and connect to the same live connection with Excel, Excel does not take implicit measures. So this column, even though it's a number, will not be able to be used in a pivot table inside Excel. So another technique I like to use is just to build out sums or simple sums around each of these values, so that way I have them and they're already in my sales table. So I'm going to right click on the sales table. We're going to say new measure. We will then say total NSAT. And then we'll just do our simple sum here of the NSAT score. And you'll see it auto-populates the sales table and then the NSAT score there as well. So we'll do that and hit enter. We now have our total NSAT. And now what I'll do is I'll actually hide the NSAT score itself. So instead of using the implied measure here, where I could change this NSAT from, so I'll drag it here on the page, it's implied here that it will do a sum. So the average, the automatic implied aggregation is a sum. I can change it here by clicking on this little down arrow. But what we're doing with this measure is we're explicitly calling off what we want the math to do. So that's why we're doing that. And we're going to just hide this for now. So I will hide that column, and that way it's not visible to the end user. Same thing for sales amount. I'm going to build a new measure here for sales amount. And we're going to do the same total sales amount. And then we will again do our sum of sales amount. There we go. Enter on that one. I will then hide this column. Hide. And then we'll do the final thing here for the units as well. So one more measure for that one. Total units equals the sum of units. And we're going to use that from the sales table. So again, these are just kind of generic good practice or modeling techniques. I'm going to hide this one here. And then finally, we're going to need to do, now that we've made these 3 new calculations, we will want to move them back into our global measures table. So clicking back over here on the model view, we're going to go down and we're going to grab our 3 values here and we will drag them up, hopefully. Come on. It's going to make it hard for me to drag all the way up there. Come on, scroll up, little guy. All right. Another way you can do this is we can actually use or borrow the name that's previously measured here. So we're going to go copy this one because it's not letting me drag those up there. I'm going to grab global measures. And we're going to go back down here to the very bottom for these 3 items. And then we'll enter the global measures in that table. So that should then move all of those measures back up to our global measures. So now we've made all the measures and we've hidden the columns that are numerical, so we don't need them at this point. This is the model that we're looking at. We have a couple categories. I have reoriented the tables and how they are filtering. Again, another very basic modeling technique. When you're looking at the model, I typically put the dimensions at the top and the facts towards the bottom. And then as the dimensions modify the table below, the direction of filter goes from the top down. Okay, so that's enough for the modeling piece here. I think we understand what's happening, and we're ready to publish this into the PowerBI.com service. So now what I can do is hit publish here. It will ask me to save my data source changes. And then it's going to ask me where it wants me to publish this stuff. So I will publish this into my Power BI demo site. Publishing away. And after a second here, it should load, and there's success. So we should be able to open the PBIX inside this source. So I'm going to click on that. It'll then bring me into PowerBI.com, and you'll see that we have our report page here, which really has nothing in it, which is okay. That's what we designed it to do. If we go back to this workspace and we look at what is in here, we have our data set called data source, which is this report. And now if I click on the reports, we also have this report called data source. Now, technically, I don't want people to use that. So I'm actually going to trash that, get rid of the report, because we don't need that anymore. And now we have our data set here called data source. So great. We've already been able to publish a data source to this location. All right. Now that we've done the data modeling piece, now let's talk about the layouts piece, right? So we've made a model, we've published it to the service. Now we're going to come back and we're going to open up one of these layouts and see what that gives us. So I'm going to close out of the data set, the data source. We're going to get rid of that. So this is my data source. We've already produced that, and that is out. So I have 3 different layouts in front of me here. And if you want to go get more of these, you can actually find them over at powerbi.tips. So I will just quickly show you that. Here is our layout section, and we have, I think, over 15 or 14 different layouts already so far. So feel free, these guys are free. You can go download them yourself. There are different types of these layouts. There's different formatting, different colors. The idea is these are just areas where you can get started with these reports. So I'm going to show you how to work with these, and then we'll show you how it looks in the report. Let's start here with this one called Sunset. So if we're going to open up this PBIT file, so this is a template file that you get from the download. I've already pre-downloaded these templates. So if I open the template file, you'll see that it opens up Power BI Desktop. And the first thing you'll notice is there's already basically a kind of a pre-built report in here. And it will have a background color, and it'll have some blank visuals inside it. And we have some background areas here. So this one has this kind of sunset theme color here. And if you click on the different pages, there's already a multiple of pages here. So there's a yellow page, an orange page, pink page, and the purple page. So interestingly enough here is there's already some controls that have already been built on this report. So this is a template file. If we look over here in the fields area, the fields well, there is no data source here. There are no tables. There is nothing connected to this model. So this is why we wanted to build that data source, right? This template is in this layout essentially here. It already has some pre-canned or pre-designed features in it. So if I hold the control key, there's already some navigation elements here. You can actually navigate to each of these different colors by page. So if I click on the yellow one here, you can see that it navigates me over to the yellow page. And then once I'm at the yellow page, I can then click the yellow box again, and it'll navigate me back to the overview page. So to show you how that is built, go over here to the view ribbon. We'll turn on the bookmarks, and you can see here there have been bookmarks made for each of these pages. So there's a bookmark that navigates you to the overview page, and then it navigates you to the yellow page, to the orange page, pink page, and then the purple page. So you can kind of jump between these pages with the bookmarks. The shapes over here are a simple shape. It's just a clear shape with no formatting on it. And then it has an action attached to that shape. And it's just triggering a bookmark and then taking me to the bookmark called the yellow page. So what's really doing here is I have shapes laying over top of these visuals. And as I click them, it just navigates me somewhere within the report. So this is a feature that you would build into one of your layouts if you're going to make your own. As you would want to think about, where does the navigation element sit within my page? Where am I going to put them? And how am I going to have users navigate through my report? For this case, we click the yellow box, it takes me to the yellow page. If I click it again, it returns me back home. So a very simple interaction, but you do want to think about, especially when you're building reports, is you want consistent spaces on your page where you have these are the navigation elements, or this is where the visuals will go. To also expand a little bit more here, what's going on with this background? So this background image is just an image that I've built in, I think I built this in Adobe Illustrator. And if you click the paint roller here, you can see the page background. And what I can do is I can adjust, or you can see that there's just an image attached to this page background. And I think if I change the transparency, yeah, there you go. So you can see what I've done there. It's just an image that's been fit to the page. Okay, so that's really what's happening. And then I have, for the yellow page, I have a different image. So this is a different background image where I've washed out the colors of the other three elements and left the strong yellow color at the front. Okay, let's go back over to the overview page. So now that we understand how this layout works, let's go get some data and let's start building a report. So here's the part that I call myself the lazy engineer for, is because now that I have this template built, I can go bring in any data source that I want and start making reports and pages in here fairly quickly. Now I don't have to build any of these navigation elements. I build it once and then continue to reuse this report over and over again. So we're going to go here to the home ribbon. We're going to go to the Get Data feature up in the upper ribbon bar. And when I click this, it'll ask me for a number of different options. I have Excel, I have Power BI data sets. This is from powerbi.com. And I can also go here to Power BI data flows. So we're going to use the Power BI data sets, but there's a number of other sources that are kind of quick links here. If I bring in a data flow, just for clarity and for people to understand, the data flow is simply bringing in just tables. There's not, I mean, you can bring in relationships with data flows, but typically data flows are just a bunch of tables you're bringing in. The data sets is more like bringing in an analysis services cube, where I have the relationships and the measures already pre-built. So I'm going to click on Power BI data sets. I'm going to check my time here real quick, see how far we're getting here. Oh, maybe I won't. Check the time. Okay, we're good. Plenty of time. All right, so I'm going to go look for my data set. So I have, I think it was called data source. There we go. So if I type in the box up here, data source, we can see here's the name of my data source, called appropriately data source, and I put it in the SharePoint Power BI demo site. And we did that about 6 minutes ago. So this is what I'm looking to connect to. So I'll go connect to this data source. And we can see instantly right away, we have all of our tables built out with measures. And then if I open up the sales table, boom, there's my global measures. And here's all my dimensional pieces. It looks like I might have missed one here. I didn't hide this sales size sort as a numerical column. But in here, now I have all my measures. So now I can start building things against this. So let's just say we need to modify this layout a little bit more. One of the things I would say, especially when you're modifying layouts or taking them from the website that we produce, and how do you modify them, your two best friends will be the bookmarks window or the pane, and there's the selection pane. So these are all the different items. To find those, so this is the bookmarks one, and I can cancel it here. To turn those on, you'll go to the view ribbon. You'll go down to the show panes area, and you'll show the bookmark pane and then the selection pane. And these are the ones that typically house all the elements that are on the page. And again, this makes it really easy when you want to select different items. I'm finding myself, especially as I'm working with very complex reports and a lot of different elements on the page, definitely using the grouping feature. So if you haven't used that, go Google it. It's awesome. You'll really like it. And then as I select different elements across the page, I do a really good job of trying to name them. So for example here, I have this yellow clicker, the yellow clicker, orange, pink, and purple clickers. These are my little shapes that are on top of my visuals on the left-hand side. And then I have these cards. So these are like for numerical values. And then below each of the cards, I have a title. So if I click on the title here, I can then modify this name to something else. We'll just call it right now, for this one will be page 1. And then I can click on the orange title, and then we can rename this one as well. So if I use the selection panel, it makes it much easier for me to navigate different elements on the page. And again, proper naming of your elements on the page is super helpful, because then when you're going back through this, you can then quickly see what you're using to be able to select different components on the page. So it's easy to rename those items. I've already renamed those different pages. And now maybe we want to add some calculations to each of these colors. So let's do that. And for page one, let's just make sure we can understand what's on the categories we have here. So before I start modifying and adding things to these existing visuals, let's just grab a category column here, and it should connect to my analysis services cube. There you go. And here is my table. Now another, oh man, this is like a styling, so many styling tricks and techniques here I like to use. So this one has a transparent background on it. So because I'm working with a background layer here, and this is a table, I often want to put backgrounds on my visuals to make it very clearly stand out and a nice trim border. So I'll put a background on this one, and then I'll turn the transparency all the way to 0. And now I can see I have my little table here, and it's nice and white, and then it will look good on my page when I adjust and add other visual elements to the page as well. So I can click this, and then I can bump it around with my keys, and there we go. All right, so we have different categories, and maybe some of these categories are the data points we want to put on this page. So I can go over here to category. I can then grab our total units and also add it to my chart. And there we go. You can see which ones are here. Let's sort these by total units. Okay, it looks like computers, cameras, and home appliances are kind of my top 3. Let's add those as numerical values to these different cards. So what we can do is we can go over to the yellow card, which is where this is the data card. And then we will grab in the total units measure to this one. And I apparently have a filter that's already here. Let's get rid of that. There's my 90,000 for that one. But you'll notice 90,000 is the total value. So let me zoom in here so you can see what's going on. So I've dropped the one item. It's actually aggregating all the values. So if I want this first page to talk about computers, I'll need to automatically filter this card here. So what I'll do here now is I will go to the yellow card, and then we will grab our categories, and we will add them to the card. Oops, I think I dropped my card. Let's go back to the yellow card. Let's grab category and add it as a filter. And so now here we go. There's my category, and we want to use computers for our number 1 item, and there we go. So now it's saying the right value. So now I can go back to my title here, and then I can rename this computers. So we've just made our first card based on some of our data. And we could go through and modify additional pieces here within this report as well. So I could go back here to the next one. We can go to the orange card. Old data. We can go to the orange card, and we can also add our units again, total units as a field. And then we can then bring our category over here to the filters again. And now we want to pick cameras and camcorders. We'll check that one, and now we have a number for that. And then we can go back to our title, and we can relabel this one as well. We'll just title this one camera. Oops. Cameras. That's also another little trick. If you delete something fully, the formatting goes back to normal. So what you saw me do there is when I deleted the cameras, as soon as I deleted the entire statement, the formatting went back to black text, and it wasn't the same. So I used the Control-Z button to keep the formatting, and then I was able to Control-A, select the entire cell, and then type in what I wanted. Oops, I should have probably named that cameras instead of just camera. Let's just fix that. It's gonna bug me. So cameras. All right, let's just do one more just to prove the point a little bit more. We'll go here to the pink card. Man, I must have had a lot of stuff I was testing. We'll go here to the total units again. We'll add that to the card. Our value shows up. We'll then grab the category and add it to the filters. And then now we will use our third highest item would be home appliances. So we'll click that there, and now our value is adjusted. Go back over to the title, and then now we can say this will be Control-A, home appliances. There we go. So now we've been able to build our page, and now if I hold Control-click here, we could then build the same thing here on this next page. So then I could rebuild out these other elements here on this page and continue on. Other things that we can do on this page or on these pages, we can also build out other visuals. So if I wanted to see some information by country. We could bring in our total units by country now. And then as I grab this chart bigger, we can then try and fit this on the page. Then we may want to add some other things on the report here. We may want to add a line chart somewhere. Maybe let's get rid of the axis for this one. Do we have any kind of time-bound data? Maybe let's not do a line chart. Let's do a bar chart, and we can do it by sales order ID. Well, it looks like that's all pretty consistent. Let's not use that one. Let's just do product name. There we go. Maybe that's a list of stuff. All right. Anyways, the concept here is you can go through and you can kind of build out things that you want. You can even add slicers to the page. But the idea here is as you build various elements on the page, it will just kind of look good, right? You'll have this pre-designed background that's going to help you speed your report development. So then all I'm doing really is adding the certain visuals that I want, building the interactions that I need so that it then adjusts my report page, and then all my measures are being built here against the data source model. Okay, one other thought around this, if we need to adjust this model or we want to have some local measures here. So there's this concept of a global measure and a local measure. So because I have live connected between my report here and the report that I've published at PowerBI.com, I can introduce this local measure. So if I right click here, I can actually click a new measure. And what this will do is it'll actually build me another measure inside just this report. So this one would not be one that we would put in the global. Other reports won't have access to this. However, this may be something specific for a particular visual. So maybe you want to do a count of something. So let's go maybe like product count. And maybe that's something specific for a visual that you want. And this time you want to use a count function. And let's try and go after so start typing, oh, maybe it's your product name. That's what I'm looking for. Product name. There we go. Sales table with the product name. So then I can count how many products or how many different products I have named by some sort of grouping. So then now I can reuse that. So I can shrink this chart up a little bit, and maybe we want to use our new measure. So we'll build a new table here. And we will use our product count here, and we may want to count that by country. So now we've been able to make a new table. Let's rearrange this. And another thing here you'll notice is the formatting of this visual may be different than other visuals. So if I go back to this one and turn this into a table again, see how we have this nice white background, but this one does not have that. You can use, hopefully it's in this one, you have the format painter. So if I select the visual that I like the formatting for, I click the format painter and then click the new visual, it should automatically pre-apply those formatting elements to the other visual. So again, this is another kind of trick that I like to use in order to make the visuals align really well here. So now I have another table, and there we go. We've built a report. So now that we're done with this report, we can then publish this report into service. So let's minimize these so we can see what we're looking at. Maybe I do a little bit more development and this report looks good. Now we hit publish. Sure, let's save the changes. Test, sunset. Do this on our desktop. There we go. And it will know that my data source lives in Power BI, SharePoint Power BI demo site. So I'll just hit select there because it'll know to publish it there. And there we go. I'm able to publish this report directly into PowerBI.com. So now we can go check out the report. It'll take us back into the report. It'll show us the report page. Everything will work like you were expecting before. So I can still click on these different elements and navigate my pages. So that's working. I still have all the visual elements that I would want. So if I want to select certain things, I can go click these different items. Looks like my filters did not apply correctly on these values here. And then let's reset this to default. Sure. There you go. I must have clicked something funny there. Okay, and then the next piece here is what happens if I want to go look at all the reports and my data sets now. So we're going to go navigate back over to the workspace. and we go over here to the reports section. Now we have 3 reports. We have our sunset, and then we have our 2 other existing reports. And when we go to the data sets here, you'll notice there is no sunset data set. That's because we're already using this existing data source. So great, we've made 1 report. How else can we use this? What's another way we can continue to produce things here? So I'm going to close out of this desktop file. There's our first report that we've built. And maybe we want a different style, or maybe we want a different way of using some of this data. So now we can go to this other layout. So here's another smooth operator layout. And we can look at how this one's being built. So we'll use the same process here. We're going to open up this report. Here we go. Now this one has some additional instructions with it. So with these layouts, they kind of come with instructions. Here's the color palette for this report. And you can, for this one, I believe we can actually adjust. We go over here to, where do I change the color theme now? The new ribbon is throwing me off. Oh, here it is. It's under the view ribbon now. So we'll go here to the view ribbon. And if I adjust this one, I can now pick different color palettes. So by clicking different color palettes, we can then automatically see the color changes of this palette and how that'll look with the report. So I'm going to go to this one. We'll maybe use this one for now. And then we can go to these other pages. And so, oops. Looks like something changed there on the formatting. See how it blanked out my icons here? So something must have changed in the formatting for those different icons. Let me just not save this one. We'll try and come right back in. While this loads up, there we go. Okay, so now we're back to our report. So you can see over here we have some different shaded icons on the upper right-hand corner. This one is a remove filters button. So while this is just an icon on the page with a button that's on top of it, you can see that there's a button here. There's no button text. And if you want, there's an action. So you can clear filters or clear the filters on a page, and you can adjust these bookmarks. Again, with these layouts, there's already predefined or pre-built things inside the layout to help you make things easier. Another element on this page that you can see here is I have this hover over for an information button. So if I control click the information button, you can see that we've already tried to pre-design a way for you to put a screen over the page and then add text boxes and show you how to do that so you could actually add additional information about your report. So with that, it comes a little X button. And then for each of the page of the report, you can see a different layout of objects, and they all get this information and cancel button for each of these elements on the page. So this will just help you. Again, we're building some predefined visualization features right on the report. And so that way, as you use the report, you don't have to build these for every single page. You can just jump in on the original page and start building things here. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to connect to a data set because we have nothing in our fields currently. Let's go to get data. We're going to go down to our data sets. We're going to go back over to data source again. So let's type in data source. There's our data source. Click create. And there we go. We now have our measures here. And so if I open up sales again, now you'll notice the count that we had made earlier, I think it's down here, is no longer there because that was in my other file. So that's a local measure, not a global measure. But because we have this global measures, we now have this here available for every single item within the data set. So now we can go through this one and we can start building out visuals similarly to what we did before. So let's build out some information by manufacturer. I can then align my visual on the page, and this was somewhat small, so I think we could probably get away with the bar chart on this one. And then maybe we want to bring a measure in here, total units. So we'll add values here, and there we go. Visuals built. Maybe we want to do another one. Let's go grab another visual on the page, drop in another visual here, and we will arrange him on this tile. And now we can go over here and say, let's go for, I think I had total sales amount. Let's go after that one. That will be our values. And this time we may want to bring in product name. It's probably gonna get a bit busy. Maybe that's what we're looking for there. And then we have this middle section here for maybe some cards or some other additional information. So here we may want to bring in a total units measure. oops, total units. And we might want to turn this into a card. And then we can resize this so it fits on this bar. And then I can Control C, Control V that, and then drop in another card there. And so this one may be total sales amount now. So we'll swap that out. Control C and Control V. And now I can drop in another card. And let's see what else we have here. Sales amount average per country. Maybe that'll work. Okay, looks like that'll work for me. So now that we've made some measures here, as we click our different elements, all of our numbers should adjust. Again, we're pulling off of that analysis services cube. We can also adjust our interactions here. So worldwide importers, seems like it's not filtering the data. So we can go here to the view ribbon, actually format ribbon, sorry. We can edit our interactions and we can change this from a slice mode or highlight mode into a filter mode. So that way when I click it, it automatically filters the data down to just that region or that additional firm. And there we go. Within a couple minutes here, we've been able to produce a page that has some information on it. We can then click this information button and you'll see that there's some weirdness here, right? So we're going to double check this. So the idea here is as you build new elements, they're going to be built on top of each other. So what we want to do is we're going to need to adjust the layers of these elements so that they make sense. So let's get rid of this thing. And now what we'll do is we'll go open up the view ribbon. We're going to click on the selection window and you'll see right away why this is happening. So our sales amount is here higher in this little list here. So all the things that we just recently made were at the top of this list. Our shapes and buttons and other images were there at the bottom. So what we need to do is we need to just reorient these things. So I'm actually going to move these things down below towards the bottom of the page. We'll put the cards here in the middle. This is also a good idea for using grouping. So to use grouping, you would grab the 3 items. So first card through the third card, right click on those and then group them. And so I can move my group down and I can just rename this. Again, renaming is definitely the way to go. So this is list of cards. And then I have my 2 charts down below. So now when I click the information button, I'll hold Control and click. Now I'm able to then wash out the page and then put little marks over here on the top. And so now I can adjust these. And so the purpose of these is, we may want to, let's see here, let's rotate this little button around. Let's see here. So let me do it. We're going to rotate it this way. And then we may want to adjust these other 2 items. So let's move our box here and bring our text box over on top of it. So now we may want to write some information about this. Oops, let's go back to the text box. So here's where we want to say, hey, we want to start telling people how to use this report. So this chart is for units by manufacturer. Click on one of the items. Oops, can't spell. One of the items. See filtered results. You can make any other notes here, other notes. One thing I find is interesting, especially when I'm building out reports, I like to tell people what kind of insightful things we're looking for. So, a note here that we might want to put on here is, these are the highest sales customers, whatever that may be, right? So we're trying to add some insights there. So let me make this so it all fits on one text box. Let's make that a little bit bigger. Okay, there we go. And then if you want to, you can actually group these 2 items together. So I'm going to group this image and text box. So I'm going to grab the Control and Shift. Oops. Grab these 2 items together. And then we will group them together again. Right click, group, make a group out of those guys. And it looks like it made a funny thing there again. Text box. So now I have another group here, and we may put that above everything else. And if I want to, I can actually add other groups of this as well. So I can grab the entire group that we have here, and we can copy and paste that. And then we can add other groups here as well. Now, if we do this, we have to be mindful that every time we add a new element here, we would have to update our button to be able to either show or hide this information. So what we'll have to do is update a bookmark as we add more elements here. So if I click the cancel button here, you'll see that this one still hangs around. So we'd have to update that bookmark. So what we'll do is we'll open up the view ribbon, the bookmarks ribbon. And you can see here we've already pre-labeled things. So we have page 1, which is just the straight page. We have the information button, and we have the clearing of the information. So if I click these different various buttons, if I click on number 1 here, this is where that item should be hidden. So we actually want to hide that group. So what we're going to do here is we're going to hide that group. Then we're going to update this button. And now when I click there, it should show it. So now we want to unhide both of these elements. And now we're going to update this bookmark. So we'll update that one. And now we should be able to toggle between not showing information and showing information. So clicking the information, there it is. Clicking the X makes it disappear. So we've been able to update the bookmarks so we can then add additional elements around each of our pages. So again, keeping some of the navigation things simple, now we can go through and build out the rest of the pages of this report if we wanted to. So let's go back to page 1 here. Maybe we're done and we want to publish this now. We can now go back to the home ribbon, click on the publish button, and it'll let me save it. So this is report number 2. We'll save it to our desktop. It'll then ask me where to publish it. We're going to go back to the same location. And we've been able to publish number 2 report. It'll take a second for it to load here. Now that it's loaded, we can then go open the report in PowerBI.com. And now we have added our third report to, or the second report to the PowerBI.com space using the same data set. All right, lastly, we can go do this one more time. So let's look at one more layout here. Let's go to this last one called the one. This is going to be one that's going to be pretty flexible. All right, got about 10 minutes left. I'll just do a quick demo here. Don't want to belabor the points too much. Okay, so for this one, if we click on page 1, you'll notice there's a little half moon circle here that is going to be showing you which page you're highlighting. So this one, we built this a bit later on in our report layouts development. At this time, we had some more features with buttons. So if we click on page 2 here, you'll notice that that little marker moves along so you can see which marker is on which page. So as I move through the pages, I can see which page I'm on. Again, this one comes with automatic navigation. So if I click on page 2, it automatically takes you to page 2 and page 3, so you can navigate the report here. Again, this is just great design when you have, common navigational elements across the top part of the page, where you can then just jump across the report. So let's go to page 1. We will then go get data. We're going to go get Power BI data sets again. We're going to use our data source. So I'm going to look up data source. There we go. We're going to create a connection to that. There we go. We have all of our tables again, and here we are. So we can then continue building on top of this. So again, we can grab maybe product descriptions here. And maybe we want to have that just as one big list on the right-hand side. We already have our little visual elements ready to go. Again, maybe we want to put some, let's see what else we have here. Subcategory information, maybe by sales, sales amount, maybe in a bar chart. So we can drop that in here. And the neat part about some of these layouts is there are white borders for this one. So you don't have to really get the chart dialed in exactly right. We always know that the edges will always line up here. And so maybe we want some cards here on the right-hand side. So I'll drop in a card. And maybe we'll put a couple cards over here. And we'll drop in total units, Control C, Control V. I can drop in another card. Total NSAT now. Let's use that one. Control C, Control V. And then we can maybe go grab something else here, maybe the year over year. Let's see what this does. Okay, minus 100. The changes, we adjust stuff. Maybe that calculation doesn't like those filter contexts that we're providing for it. So anyways, there we go. We've been able to build another report. You can then load up other pages or use other different layouts, whatever makes sense. So again, we can drop in country again if we wanted here. And now we can bring in sales amount for this one. So we can then bring this chart up here and reuse that as well. So you would just go through and build out the rest of your pages and your report, and it all will look good and it'll style well. And then you'll have this nice pre-built navigation elements at the top of the page that automatically help you navigate through your report. Finally, we can publish this report. We hit save again. This will be our third report, report number 3. I'll hit save on this. It'll ask me then where to publish it, hit select. Once it finishes publishing, we can then check it out again. And that's it. So we've just been able to build 3 reports off of a common data set. Each one of them have a different style and feel, and then they all live in the same workspace. So we've been able to kind of leverage the power of just building one data model. We have these 3 new reports, but we're not actually increasing the size of the data sets or the models on this particular report. So that's about it. That wraps it up. So let me minimize this one. And we'll get out of this report thing. I'll hop back quickly over to our presentation. See if I can present this again. So there you go. That's kind of an overview of layouts, how you would use them, why you want to use them. Again, leveraging the enterprise a little bit here, making a common data model and leveraging the power of these layouts to just kind of pre-build reports. You can build your own report by bringing in different visual elements and building out layouts that you think make sense, and then just reusing them over and over again against different data sets. That's about it. Are there any questions?
No, Mike, we haven't got any questions.
Sounds good. And with that, I think we're like 4 minutes till the end here. I'll give you 4 minutes back to the rest of your day.
It's an awesome presentation. So it's pretty good and pretty detailed.
Thanks. Yeah. We're able to zoom it all in there.
Yeah, certainly. All right. So we are closing the webinar now.